Hello, this is Sonia here with The Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So today is Wednesday, and that means it's the stitch of the week. So for today's stitch, I'm using my eye or 5.5mm hook, and I have some worsted weight yarn. So for this stitch, you could use a variety of hook sizes or yarn types. And I'm calling this stitch the rolled stitch because I'm not quite sure what to call it. I kind of was just playing around and just the stitch came out. So and it looks rolled, so you'll understand what I mean as we get going. And with this stitch, you will be able to use or you could be able to chain any amount you would like. So there's not a specific chain that you would need to do. So for this stitch, I just am going to chain 9. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to single crochet across this chain. So I'm going to work in the second chain from my hook and just continue to single crochet across. So I chained 9 stitches, so at the end of my row 1 I will have a total of 8 stitches, and you can work in your chain however you would like. Okay, so I have worked my first row, my setup row, or actually it's not my setup row, it's just we're going to be working a single crochet for other rows too. So this is just row 1, and so now we're going to work row 2. So for row 2, you're just going to be working in the front loops, and we will not be turning at all for this stitch pattern. So that is very unusual, especially if you're working in rows. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be working a reverse single crochet. So reverse single crochet is also known as the crab stitch, and I can link that in the eye for you if you've never done crab stitch. And usually crab stitch is used just for decorative purposes, and it will be for this as well, but it's often just used for edging, and it looks great for edging. It just kind of gives a nice clean look. But I thought it would be fun to actually incorporate it into an actual stitch pattern. So when you work a crab stitch, you're going to be working the reverse, it's reverse single crochet. So normally I'm right-handed, so I normally crochet starting on the right, crocheting to the left, and you just saw me do that. So if you're, and left-handers usually start on the left and crochet to the right. Since I'm right-handed, I'm going to be crocheting starting on the left and crocheting to the right instead of starting on the right, and then it would be the reverse for left-handers. So we're going to be working in the front loops only. So it is a little tricky with the first one to kind of get your hook in that front loop there and just work your stitch. And when you're working your reverse, you want to go under. We're going to continue because you want it to, it's going to look rolled, so you're going to point your hook down. So let me take this out. So it's like you point your hook down and then you kind of insert it up. So let me get in the frame. Down and up. So if that, hopefully that makes sense, but let's just get going and then you'll understand more what I mean. So I'm going to insert it in the front loop of this stitch, and I'm going to put it down and insert it up, and then you just work a single crochet. So it can be a little bit fiddly because it's, you know, it's counterintuitive of what you're used to doing. Like, it just isn't going to feel right. But it isn't hard once you get going. If you're a newer crocheter, you can definitely do this one too, and it's definitely more challenging for me doing this work looking through the camera, but so you're just going to continue working in your front loop, working your reverse or crab stitch across. And there's my last stitch. And this stitch could easily be worked in the round, worked in rows, you know, whatever you want to do. Okay, so there is my row 1. So you can see it looks rolled around there. And now we're going to work our next row. So you're just going to repeat rows 2 and 3. So see, these are the stitches that we didn't work in. So what you're going to do is you're going to single crochet in those unused loops for row 3. And I'm not going to chain 1, I'm just going to pop my single crochet right in there. And I should have 8 single crochet. So I just pushed this guy down so that I could see my unused loops to single crochet across. So it just is a little variation on a single crochet. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 more stitches to go. 7. Now your last front loop can get a little bit hidden because of working in that first loop, but see, there she is right there. And even if you really can't see it that well, you could just grab a loop somewhere and make your final stitch. But there we go, there is row 3, so you can see the rolled part there. So we're just going to repeat row 2. So chain 1, go in that first front loop. And the first one's always a little bit tricky for some reason. There we go. Come on. Oops, I think I worked in both loops. Yeah, that's not right. There she is. There's that front loop. So you're probably like, I do not want to try this stitch. It looks way too fiddly. But it really isn't that bad. It's just, I think I'm making it a lot worse than it needs to be. So I am so sorry about that. I think if I just had this right in front of me, right on my lap, then it would be easier. When I film, I actually have the camera in between my, chest area, and so like I'm literally, if I have my arms like this, I'm like hugging the camera, so it makes it a little bit awkward sometimes, but I like to do it this way so that you can like really see what I'm doing, because when you are stitching yourself, your work is going to be like this. So that's why I prefer to film this way. So it can be a little bit awkward for me, but I'm just hoping that, it makes it easier for you, so that when you're stitching, it's gonna look the same way for you when you're, looking at your own work. Same thing with like doing a workout video. I hate it when they're facing you because of the opposite feet and hands and like arm movements, and you're trying to do what they're doing, but it's opposite, and I struggle with like reversing things in my brain. I just have a hard time, so I like it when they are, not facing me and I'm looking at their back, because then, their right foot is my right foot and their left foot is my left foot. So I try to do the same thing with my videos. So enough of the ramble. I have stitched across, working in my front loops. So there they are, the unused back loops there, and I'm just going to single crochet across. So I think this stitch pattern would actually, really look neat in a variety of projects. I don't know if you would want to make an entire project using this stitch pattern, but let's say if you wanted to make a blanket that had a lot of texture in it, you could incorporate a couple rows with this stitch and then a couple rows of a different stitch. I think that would be really neat. I also think this would make a really nice border stitch, actually, on a blanket. I think it would add a lot of really cool texture to it. Oops, there's my... So yes, what you would want to do is repeat rows 2 and 3 for however long you would want your swatch. And so now you can see we've got the 2 rows in. You can see how it looks rolled to me on there. I think it's really a fun stitch. It might, getting started a little awkward, but once you get going, it's really not too bad. So I hope you enjoyed this stitch of the week, and I thank you so much for watching.